Greetings humans and welcome to Geology with Jess, and today we are going to learn about trilobites because my exams are this week and I have a geology exam tomorrow afternoon, so I'm going to be talking about trilobites because I think they're interesting. Yeah, so grab a cup of tea and enjoy. So this is our stereotypical trilobite. Now, trilobites lived from the Cambrian to the Permian mass extinction, which is actually a really interesting event, which I might make another video about later, but I can't be bothered to talk about it now. We're talking about trilobites, not a mass extinction. Anyway, so here we have the head. Now, the head's called you could call it the cephalon, you could call it the cephalon. I've got no idea what it's meant to be pronounced as, but there we go. Now, ceph means head, because if you have like an octopus or a squid, that's a cephalopod. Ceph meaning head, pod meaning foot. So that's our little octopus there. But yeah, so that's the cephalon. And these spines here, they're called genal spines, which I don't know where the name comes from, but I think it's quite cool. This is the glabella, and that's just basically a protective covering, as far as I understand. These are its eyes. Now, the eyes of a trilobite are actually really cool. They're compound eyes, so it's made of calcite, and it's actually really awesome. I could talk about that for a long time. Anyway, what am I talking about? This is called the pygidium. Pygidium. There we go. So this is the pygidial spine. So it's that pygidial spine. So we've got the cephalon, we've got the pygidium. Now the bit in the middle, overall, is the thorax, but they all have different names. So here we have the axial lobe. This is the right pleural lobe. Jesus Christ, sorry. And this is the left pleural lobe. So yeah, that is the anatomy of a trilobite. And then we've got to talk about modes of life. But to understand like how it's adapted for modes of life, you actually have to understand what these modes of life are. So here we have my beautifully drawn diagram of how to show modes of life. So we're going to learn about 4. This is my amazing drawing of a trilobite. So first of all, if you live on the surface of this mud, it's called epifaunal. And if you live in the mud, it's called infaunal. Amazing, that. Then we have this one, the swimming around. You know, he's just making his own little way through the ocean. Whee! This is called nectonic. And then you've got your floaters up there, and that's planktonic. Like you have plankton. They just kind of float around in the sea and don't really do anything. But yeah, so if you're floating around, that's planktonic. Now, sadly, I do not have a fossil trilobite in hand to show you because when I went to Glastonbury with my friends, they all bought trilobites, but I couldn't afford it, so I bought a devil's toenail instead. So we're going to have to make do with this on paper for now. So, first thing you can do is look at its eyes. Does it actually have eyes? Because if it doesn't, that could give you a very good clue about how it lives. Because if you're living in mud, if you're in faunal, you don't need eyes. Because what you're going to look at? Just bits of sediment, so you don't need it. Or it could be epifaunal, but live in a really deep ocean environment. And remember, trilobites were pretty much everywhere. Like from Cambrian to Permian, they were absolutely everywhere. So if it doesn't have eyes, it could be infaunal, or it could be epifaunal in a deep ocean environment. And if it does have eyes, are they enormous? Are they going all the way around their body? You know, if so, that could be nectonic. Because when you're nectonic, you need to see everywhere. Like, is there a predator around? Do I need to swim away? Where am I swimming to? That sort of thing. If it's got eyes on stalks, like, hang on, I will draw something like this, like a snail does, pretty much. Hello, I'm a little trilobite. Like that. If it's gone like that, then it could be partly burrowing, so its eyes can see out of the mud, or it could be epifaunal. What else could I talk about? Another thing to do would be to look at the overall shape of the trilobite. If it's streamlined, you could say that's either for infaunal, so it can travel through the mud quickly, or nectonic, so it can travel through water very quickly. It doesn't have to waste energy on, pulling itself through the water because it's built like a shed, If it's got a big pygidium, you could say it's epifaunal, because when you've got a big pygidium, you can use that as a shield. Now, as you can see, you've got all these segments, and when the segments, it's basically like a woodlouse, it can roll up. And if you've got a big pygidium, you can shield your head from whatever predator's coming at you. So if it's got a big pygidium, there's a good chance it's epifaunal. If it's got very big spines, it prevents the trilobite from rolling up. So obviously it doesn't need to worry about predators, but it also stops the trilobite from sinking through the water. And so what you could say is that it is nectonic, but very, very fast. Because if you've got spines big enough that you can't roll up, you're going to want to travel fast or you're going to get eaten. So if you're studying geology like I am, this might not be on your syllabus. I'm doing Eduqas A Level. Anyway, I just thought it was really interesting, but essentially trilobite legs were really hard to find because although the exoskeleton, the shell, fossilised really well, the legs didn't. The legs were, and the soft parts, the legs were made out of chitin, which I believe shrimp legs are made out of. Shrimp parts. Anyway, but yeah, it was really difficult to find any trilobite with legs, and there'd been none in recorded history. And there was this one guy in the 1870s called Charles Doolittle Walcott, and he said, right, I'm going to find a trilobite with legs. And he went to a place called the Burgess Shales in America, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong. It's a Lagerstadt, which is like a place where you get exceptional preservation of soft tissues. And so he was like, yep, I'm going to find a trilobite with legs here. And so we kept at it and eventually found one, actually. And the legs had calcified, so it had been replaced by calcite, which is limestone. But yeah, and it was really interesting. And it was 1876. And it was the first time anyone had ever recorded seeing a trilobite with legs. And it's still really difficult to find one because they do not fossilise easily. Yeah, and that's it, pretty much. This book is amazing. It's Trilobite by Richard Fortey, and it's quite a niche subject, so everyone will go, oh, that sounds really boring, it sounds really boring. It's not. It's really interesting. I work at an animal feed shop, and over the summer, this is what I was reading in my lunch breaks, so I'd come back off it and tell my friend all about trilobites. She was sick of me by the end of the summer, but there we go. Have a good rest of your day.